have achieved more than 100% compounded annual growth based on our audited financials. We have more than 4,000 companies now in our database, and just last year alone, we captured more than 40 million of data, purchase data on our system. And from a breakdown perspective, this year is more already. More than 58% of our top line is coming from payment and finance transactions, and another 40% is coming from trade, B2B trade, and wholesale buying and so forth through our software. So this is some of our clients, and you might know some of them. We are spread out across 68 industries, and our top 5 industries include retail, FMCG, light manufacturing, education, right, and real estate. We are also invested by prominent venture capitalists and also 2 public listed Japanese companies. And we have some local investors as well. First Floor Capital, it's a VC out of Kazana. Cradle is under Ministry of Finance, and we have some strategic investors part of our board right now as well. So how big the market? There are more than 65 billion SMEs in Southeast Asia. And what is exciting here is, during this e-commerce boom, B2B is the next big space to look at. So by just targeting a 1% of that 65 million SMEs, that would translate into more than 32,000 companies potentially will be able to service, giving us more than 40 billion of supply chain data, more than 80 million in software fees that we'll be collecting, and more than 800 million in B2B transactions happening on the platform. So here's the evolution of our model. We started in 2016 as a marketplace. So, to make it easier, we were the Lazada for business when we started. And over time, we realized that, businesses need more than that. We don't need a marketplace, but we need a more wholesome digital solution. And that's where in 2019, we created our software named Adam, and we are able to facilitate trade. So the software is the main function that we connect the marketplace, and we connect all the supply chain financing and payment on our platform. So in 2020, and that's where we achieve even further growth through this solution. So we take anywhere with having a multiple revenue stream. A marketplace, we make from suppliers anywhere between 2 to 10%. We charge for any supply chain financing or payment. The fees that we make is anywhere between 1 to 3%. And companies pay us the software anywhere in annual contracts of 5,000 up to 60,000 a year. This is really some of our performance and how well we have performed in 2020. As I shared earlier, there's 40 million of trade that happened on our platform. We have more than 4,000 companies. The average spend that goes through the platform is about 80,000 a year. And the average fees that we take either from suppliers as well as the financing partners is up to 5%, right? And we have made payments of more than 16 million to SMEs just in 2020 alone. Here's to really show you a snapshot, of, you might be familiar with some of these names. They are really huge multinationals, big enterprise softwares globally. Copa, the likes of SAP, these are the guys that are really huge globally, but then again, they serve only big global clients, right? They were acquired by either PE, or SAP acquired these companies. Moving then closer to Southeast Asia, we have a couple of players. There's a TradeGecko, which Supplycart we are sort of following and mimicking, where they got acquired by QuickBooks for more than 80 million. They are a software company, inventory management software. We have a couple of Malaysia and Indonesia players as well. And really, this is a very exciting space to be in. Just in 2019 alone, more than 2.2 billion was invested in such companies like Supplycart. So what we see, potentially what Supplycart is addressing, we are addressing the SME segment and the mid-market size companies, which there's no market leader in this region, and that's what we are aspiring to be. And our potential exits, will be through M&A by technology companies, or the financial institutions that we have partnered with, or potential listing as well. So here's basically just to show you, the news that, and you can search for it, basically how this space is looking at. and the potential exits that we see Supplycart having. Right. Our projected revenue by the next couple of years, we are projecting, again, more than 60% compounded annual growth, right? And we are seeing by 2025, our revenue top line will be at 30 million. And ultimately, with the positive EBITDA, and usually, companies are going to list. There's a EBITDA multiplier of about 20 over times for tech companies, which will then bring Supplycart's valuation to more than 40 million by post, 2025 onwards. So we're estimated to see at least a 4 to 5 times growth in our space. So with that, so far, we have committed, investors up to 700K right now. We are already currently in Malaysia, Singapore, and Hong Kong. We actually already expanded into Thailand and Philippines. And our next phase is in Indonesia. And ultimately, the regional adoption will allow us to further expand and have a further entrenched presence within the region. And ultimately, that will translate, into this is some of the numbers that we are looking at. So from a fund perspective, right, the funds will be utilized in terms of 40% of technology. We don't need so much funds to develop technology anymore because we spent the past couple of years to develop. It's a lot of enhancements and so forth. And the balance of the 60%, we are looking at establishing partnership programs, business development, and client acquisition. So our ability to be able to expand into these countries across Southeast Asia is not really setting up foot on the ground in those countries, but really establishing a partner network, a buyer intent driven strategy that will allow us to expand quicker. So imagine mBank, we had potentially access to 100,000 SMEs. We're going to replicate this strategy across the region, finding the right partners. We are integrated with Xero accounting. If you guys, some of you have heard about it, just Xero alone, the region has more than 650 Xero partners. Imagine the SMEs in each of these Xero partners. So that is how Supplycart will scale very quickly within the next couple of years. So yeah, with that, thank you very much. We are basically about to close our campaign as well. We have some very interesting investors already coming from hedge fund managers, investment bankers, CEOs of multinationals. And just to share, my final words here will be, if you're looking to diversify your investment, if you are, always wanted to be an entrepreneur and try something and you haven't tried before, why not we invite you to be a shareholder of Supplycart today and journey with us to be a Malaysian proud tech company across Southeast Asia. So with that, thank you very much. And yeah, Q&A time.
Thank you, John. That was very insightful. I think I'm going to start off with the opener question. I think it's the elephant in the room. How has COVID impacted your business? Would you like to walk us through that?
Sure. Of course, other than I shared earlier that, COVID did give us a positive impact in terms of the adoption rate of our solution. More and more companies now, because of remote work, they need to then start digitalizing their business. And I think that's what has been keeping us busy. The other side of it, I would say, definitely businesses during this lockdown, a lot of them are not operating. Unfortunately, then some of the ecosystem that we have seen, some of the suppliers, they too are not able to, supply. So there is definitely a supply chain challenge during this period, cash flow. And I think that's where it reinforces the solution that Supplycart is doing, right? We instead of helping, not only we're helping them to digitalize, we want them to expose them to get more business through the ecosystem, right? And also at the end of the day, we want to help them to finance their supply chain as well if cash is a problem right now. So I think for us, we are hanging in there in terms of working with more and more companies to digitalize. I think where we see it to be is as soon as the economy starts opening up, there'll be a very huge sort of boom for us as well. With then now companies are ready to rock and roll and just grow again. So I think that's what we see for COVID. We had to tighten our belts as well, purely because suppliers couldn't supply. So that's what we see the challenge to be. But yeah.
I see. So one of the questions that's COVID related is, how is Supplycart going to ensure that the SME remains sticky on your SaaS platform as the pandemic fears ease?
Right. So imagine that every business needs an accounting software, right? So we are that complementary software that whatever the company needs to buy or spend, they need to do through our platform, right? So the stickiness of Supplycart, we have more than 90% repeat rate, purely because we are so embedded in the company. I mean, if for listeners here, if you're a business owner, if you're still using Excel, right, to do your POs, we are that solution, right? Hence that whole time cost efficiency is so much more important. Digitalization of the business is so much more important. So I would say Supplycart is here to stay. It won't be that okay, I'll use Supplycart system when we want to, right? But actually we are very embedded with the business, and we journey with our clients, to digitalize their business. But at the same time, we want to expose them to get even more business, and at the same time we want to help them with their cash. If that is not sticky enough, then I think we're not in the right business or offering the right solution.
Okay. Would you like to speak a little bit about a few of your local competitors? Like, who are your local competitors and who are your regional competitors?
Right. So as I shared previously in my slides, I guess the closest competitor that we have, is a public listed company here in Malaysia. They've been around for ages, a while, and they predominantly service, GLCs or very large conglomerates here in Malaysia. So again, there's a gap that actually is not being addressed for mid-market size SMEs. If you're looking at, and a lot of times people compare us with some of the other B2B marketplaces in retail space, and I think that's what we're different, because we're focusing on the software and not trade. So a number of companies that we see locally, they are facilitating trade. All trade needs to go through them. They buy in bulk, they could be selling Milo, they could be selling off other stuff. But we're not that, we are that software provider actually. And I think that's the differentiator between Supplycart. Of course, we have some comparators where, if you're a software development house, you could build something like Supplycart for the clients as well, but that is not making it affordable for SMEs, right? And that's where then Supplycart, we don't custom build our software. We are actually building for the entire ecosystem for the greater good of everybody. So I think that's how Supplycart has differentiated ourselves. Regionally, I guess the competitor I would say is TradeGecko. Basically, they are a Singapore-based company. They are an inventory management software. But because their inventory is very closely related to procurement, business spend as well. So of course, potentially with that huge money that they have, right, they could be able to sort of move to in our space as well. But I think, like I said, 65 million SMEs, more than 80% have not, not using any digital tools at all. I think the space is big enough for everybody. I think the matter now is how we scale faster and grow. And I think what Supplycart's vision is, we don't want to be stuck with operational things happening in Malaysia, but be able to expand. And that was our success, actually, to be able to expand to Hong Kong and Singapore in just 1 month. Our buyers, our clients, brought us to those countries because they wanted to use it in those countries. And overnight, because they brought on their suppliers and we digitalized their suppliers. So overnight, they brought on hundreds of suppliers onto our platform. So that's where I think that, that's our advantage and competitive advantage, and that's the repeatable and scalable model that Supplycart is going through.
So aside from just local partners, are there other strategies that you've implemented for your expansion to Singapore and Hong Kong?
Yeah. So other than I think the partnership, right? It's a very key strategy expansion for us. So one strategy which you heard me share was a buyer-driven, client-driven expansion. And that is directly Supplycart working with the clients to expand in those countries, right? To create, again, to grow the ecosystem of suppliers and buyers. The partners actually really bring a lot of value here because they have already established themselves in those home countries, right? They see a need and gap as well for, SMEs, to be able to not just have one solution, but value add and allow them to have a more, holistic, seamless solution as well. And I think that's where then we will continue growing that kind of strategic partnerships with financial institutions and, in a way, cloud accounting or accounting software, because these are really related in that way and aligned with Supplycart's vision of what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. I see. So let me just pull back to Malaysia a little bit. One
Sure.
Audience is interested. How do you acquire new users? Is it door to door? Is it through feed? Would you like to share with us some of your strategies?
Right, Ken. So I guess the local partner that we work with, the bank, they had 100,000 SMEs. The accounting partner that we had, they have 20,000 SMEs. So that aside, other ways that Supplycart acquire the customers now is very intent driven, where businesses now are looking to digitalize. They are flowing in suppliers who want to digitalize their business. Hey, we want new channels. Again, they're coming in as well. So we get a lot of that through intent. Of course, we invest in SEO. We do a lot of education, content creation, right? The science behind it, how do we drive traffic, and build Supplycart's brand, right? The collaborations as well has elevated Supplycart's brand and reputation as well. So in that way, Supplycart is, pretty well known in Malaysia, I would say. I think, so far the strategy for us, we want to continue doing that. We don't find, I think with this time and age right now, that whole cold calling method and trying to knock on doors doesn't work anymore. And I think now it's really, are we really addressing a real need and pain point? Is that intent? And I think that's where we excel in Malaysia.
Interesting.
Yeah. So because we do well. So we find, if anything, the users, right, stick with us wherever they go. So we have instances when we started very early in 2016, or when the software came out in 2018, when a user changes job, right, they bring us along. Everywhere they go, they bring us along, and then there's referral as well. So clearly, we see that very encouraging that our clients are
doing something right.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So next from the audience, we have Wong Tek Jun. There's two parts to this question. The financing business is very interesting. One, any regulatory restriction, i.e. licensing. Two, how do you manage risk?
Tek Jung, very good question. So the licensing thing, right, it's really on the bank, which is why we decided to partner with the people who have the license. All right. From a compliance perspective, if anything, we are helping the banks now and all these P2B guys with the compliance better, purely because the whole transparency of the trade now is all stored on our platform. And of course, we don't just pass the information to financial institutions. Either the buyer or seller has to consent that they want it to be financed, and then it will engage the financing partner, and they get to choose who they want to finance, and potentially whoever gives them the best deal, then they can choose. So we are merely the enabler for that whole invoice factoring and supply chain financing. And that's the beauty of where we are heading, because imagine all the trade is happening, all the buying pattern, the behavior and everything, is all stored on our platform. And this is pushed on to the banks, right? And it's very quickly to be able to be financed. As compared from before, what we realized was you have to manually print out all your invoices, quotations, so submit it to the branch, all this paperwork, could take 2 to 3 weeks. And by the time the loan gets approved, the trade has already happened, right? And what for we need the money anymore? We could have lost the deal. So I think that's where, the question about, the licensing, and there's no risk. The risk is really the accuracy of the data that pass through. So I would say there is a slight operational risk, that how accurate is the data passing through, and I think it's on Supplycart to make sure that the transfer of data is accurate, and our systems, store that data and push it on. And that's it. Because the financing risk, it will be signed between the financing partner and the SME. Nothing to do with Supplycart. We are just purely the platform provider.
Okay. So next up, it's two parts to this question as well. Is one, what is your competitive edge compared to your competitors? Second, why must SME go through Supplycart to get funding? They are better off getting direct funding from banks or P2P platform on their own, right? What does Supplycart offer in addition?
Sure. So I think I've addressed the competitive edge already question, right? I think that's what we differentiate ourselves. Now, why would any SME want to go through Supplycart? Imagine that you are trading on the platform and all this transaction happens. The financing will be much quicker, which is why we are linked to the P2P guys and fintech guys, purely because the accuracy and the speed of it is faster, right? You don't need to maybe go through that whole onboarding, EKYC, everything, all that is done through the platform, right? That confidence level as well. We see that a lot of buyers, sometimes the larger buyers, they want to owe the SME 60 to 90 days, and then the SME is like, hey, I want to get paid earlier, man, right? So why not do an invoice factoring, right? And with all the invoices on Supplycart system, right, sure, you finance the invoice and you get paid like, I don't know, 30 days, 2 weeks, or immediately. Now, how is that going to be translated onto the P2P platform, right? Is You don't need to then, take that invoice, everything, all go and register yourself with, of course you can do that, that's then going back to old manual and slow way, right? And the stickiness again for us is the SME gets more business through our ecosystem, right? So it's really a lot of benefit here, right? That why you're on Supplycart's platform. We're giving you more business, we're going to let finance you some more, and we help you digitalize. And if you want to go to the P2P, okay, that's that we can't stop you lah. Yeah.
So how did you come about with that idea?
In terms of doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think me being a business owner, right? I was that SME, right? I started my first business in trading business. Who would ever want to give me a loan? I was supplying to hospitals all over Malaysia, right? I had to buy stocks and consumables, right? And I mean, if I still had a medical business now, I would be milking it now, lah. But anyway, I sold that business. But I always had a cash flow problem, right? And every time when I go to the bank, they'll say, we need 3 years of audited, so we can't unless you pledge your house, you pledge, you want my blood, right? And I think that's where I many years back I saw that problem as a business owner, right? And it was really trouble, in terms of even accounting software I was using was like on a CD. I had to install on a desktop, and then I have to like key in there. If my computer crash or somebody spill coffee on it, that's the end of it. So all this sort of led me into thinking that, hey, SMEs really, there's really this gap. I myself went through this. So, why not start off with, okay, a digital channel to sell first, giving more business to SMEs. And that's where the marketplace started. And then the whole part about, no more is a CD, like install MYOB on my computer, and then so then we started moving cloud accounting. All these softwares came about, QuickBooks and Xero. But then again, all the trade, my suppliers were all old school guys. Hey, hello, what's the price? Hey, send me this, or hey, WhatsApp me. So all this kind of stuff, right, created this kind of inefficiencies in the business. And we all came from consulting background, and we were working with really big multinationals, and we saw how can we bring that, to the SMEs. How do we share this? How do we grow SMEs in that way? How do we level up SMEs, And that's where then, and finally, it made sense then why we went to work with the banks and the trade, because that whole part about, I don't have 3 years, or how do I get paid faster, because a lot of times, to be honest, it's the SMEs fault that they're not being paid earlier or faster. You know why? Documents missing lah, manual entry lah, missing here and there lah, enter wrong lah, wrong pricing lah. All this kind of stuff, right, does add on, right? So why not then, come onto a platform that is able to do all this, one go?
Yeah. So now that you've mentioned you're trying to help this SME digitalize, did you have a lot of problem training them or teaching them? Was it hard for them to switch to digital? What is the experience?
Yep. I would say, we call that change management. Definitely, a lot of times SMEs, they're so used to doing something already, and that's definitely, they're so used to that pain already, it becomes a norm for them. Hence, that's why we say that definitely education needs to happen. That's why also we got the buyers to do it. So if we get these clients to, in a way, work with the SMEs to come on board, is faster actually, because okay, my buyer asked me to come over, I'll listen to them, as compared to me going to the SME sometimes, hey, come lah, or how. But I would say Malaysia, SMEs, we still have that. It will take time to change, but I believe COVID has accelerated that tremendously. So I think more and more SMEs are more open to the idea. I have to say that sometimes SMEs, like, there's so much noise, they don't know how to implement. And I think for us, we're not trying to hard sell. And I think we are always looking to how can we really help the SMEs. If we can't help, then why not we just channel them somewhere else, or what. And if we can help, then we want to journey with the SMEs now. So we start with baby steps. We make it easier, for them. Start with slowly baby steps and implement. And so that's why we believe the Supplycart grows with the business.
All right, let me just bring this conversation back to funding. People just want to know how you want to use this money. So let's talk about this round of ECF, right? What is the runway from this ECF funding round? Yep.
There are a couple of questions that you could be talking about financials. I'm going to just one shot lump everything up in together, talk about financials. Yeah, everybody.
Okay, let me just brief the audience, right? So it's about the runway, it's about the monetization strategy, and at what point do they want to break even?
Sure.
Go, okay. Jonathan.
All right. Okay. So basically, in terms of the runway, this ECF campaign, very honestly, would give us, leading us to profitability by January 2023. We will have enough clients, paying clients, and amount of transactions on the platform that will be in the black by Q1 2023. So strategically, actually, this funding round, we wanted to have strategic investors that can open doors for us to businesses as well. So hence, that's why when I started, I shared that currently, we have CEOs of companies, we have investment bankers and everybody, these are the few key investors that are coming in. And also because the government is encouraging investment and they are co-investing actually in this round. So, through pitchIN, right, the government has a co-investment scheme up to 25% of whatever amount we raise, and that will be invested through Ministry of Finance. And I think that's where we're taking advantage, of that as well. So this funding round, would bring us to the black. And we are not in. So the other question could be, hey John, you've received so much money from VC. Why you want to go to this ECF round or get money from the public? So I think we have answered that in that way, where we were looking for strategic investors, at this point in time, and the co-investment scheme. The early investors that came on board with us, they're all financial institutions, venture capitalists. They believe in that technology, and in a way they funded that whole R&D of that technology. And I think that's where then our early days of funding that we receive from such companies, from such financial institutions and VCs have built our platform to what it is today, right? Our monetization. So I've shared with you that we have three models of revenue. Our key module of the revenue, of course, is coming from the software. The next revenue then is coming from the take rate. Whatever trade that happens, then we take a small percentage. And then finally, whatever financing that happens, we do take a small, the financial institution share a small take rate with us as well. But I want to emphasize the focus for us here is to build the software side of it, because the software side gives us about 50 to 70% bottom line as compared to the fees of a couple of percent. So imagine the fees already gives a very good top line, and then we made that small percentage. The software revenue is very low top line, but very high bottom line. So that's the hybrid model that we have. So to the question of Mr. Wong, why our financials show that we're making a loss? Purely a lot of that funds, went to our building of our platform. About more than 80% of our burn actually from before was people. We had a tech team, we are building that. Would that spend go up after this? Actually, our spend now has sort of gone down and improved. We don't need too many resources already to focus on that R&D, because we have sort of built the platform already. So I hope that answers that question in terms of that we have been making a loss the past couple of years. And I think being a tech company, SAP, Ariba, and all these companies, they were heavily Xero, QuickBooks, all these companies that you hear, all of them were actually burning money in terms of investing into R&D, and they are where they are today, and they've even got listed, So I think that's where we aspire to look at, and how do we, so we need to balance that as well, which is why we want to reach to the black first in January for all our investors like yourself, right? To even further build that confidence. But at the same time, we want to also be able to grow very quickly, right? So as an investor, I will add on what will happen after this round. So what we see is going to happen after this round here is very much, with in the black, we have a regional presence, we have a huge growth and database of SMEs now in ecosystem. We will then our venture capitalists will bring another round for venture capitalist investors, could be PE even, right? And I think that's where then the valuation company is higher. We will get larger funds, and that's where a potential exit can happen for investors like you guys here, where these institutional investors will buy out the shares from you guys. So I think that is something that I'm looking forward to allow my investors to exit, to these financial guys.
Yeah. Speaking of regional expansion, you mentioned earlier that your go-to-market strategy is with partners, right? Are you planning to set up an office there? And is there going to be any existing headcount in the regional office, or are you just gonna manage it remotely?
Yeah, I think so. Currently, to share the success story, Singapore and Hong Kong happened remotely. We were all in Malaysia. We had a Hong Kong number, Singapore number established just for suppliers sake. That if they needed somebody to contact and everything, we had a guy who could speak, Kong Tong Wa, all this kind of stuff, right? To be able to address such inquiries. So Ultimately, the partnership model really is, if you find the right partner and they are doing it well, then we support from the technology perspective, then why not then let them grow those markets? The beauty of it is the amount of data that will go through. We're able to see the regional trade of these countries, right, or these companies. We can make a call, when do we want to expand? I've learned from other startups as well, as very fortunate as well, where a lot of companies last time made the mistake of expanding too quickly and having the foot on the ground in those countries. So I think that's something that Supplycart is very mindful about, that I think we don't plan to have physical offices or physical people in those countries unless it really makes sense, and the numbers need to make sense in that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of one of the countries, Thailand, do you know who your competitors are, and how do you plan to grow the size of your customer in Thailand?
Yep. So Thailand, there's a very established company that's similar to us. It's called Pantivanach. So yes, it's a Thai name, but they were a software company, and they are really Thailand based, and then they sort of have financial institution partners as well. So very similar model in Thailand. So I think for me in Thailand, if let's say we are looking at Thailand, it would be addressing that mid-market size companies, right? And the partnership model that we go with, I guess the market is big enough in Thailand, right? So the local partner in Thailand is even more so important. So I think that would be the strategy. So you can look it up later. It's called Panti Banaj. They work with financial institutions that partner up, but their clients are fairly larger. And I think that's where then the partnership model Supplycart again would work in those countries, because then we're targeting the mid-market size companies. Yeah.
All right. Keep them questions coming, guys. We have another 15 more minutes. So while we wait for other questions, John, I'm just gonna, keep it casual. Does Supplycart keep you going at night? Can you sleep at night?
Yep. Okay, good question. So I guess the question is, I'm very passionate about the business. Me and my co-founders, right? Definitely Supplycart keeps us up. After this, I'm definitely working until like 12, 1 o'clock. That's my most productive time as well. But where we see Supplycart heading, right? That's what excites us and keeps us awake. We see so much potential in this. We have seen that we're able to help these SMEs, have more business. We're able to help the people as well to upskill themselves to digitalize, and all these thoughts. And every time when we onboard clients regionally as well, that's what's keeping us going. I have to say that the people as well that we have that we're working together is really great people, and we have established a really healthy culture that we push each other and we excel, right? And I think all of us, we have a learning culture, so I think that's where it's really keeping me up at night. I have three kids, guys, right? I have three kids, right? I have three kids, right? I might not look so old, but I have three kids. But really, this is
look that
really
old.
yeah. Yes, thank you.
So do you mind sharing a little bit? I'm sure a lot of people, aside from just investing in your business model, they're also curious to know in terms of the team, right? So do you mind sharing what is the retention rate of your team, and how do you convince your team to stay? Because I know to be a startup leader, you need to be also a cult leader. You need to sell dreams. So how do you sell your team and convince them to stay with you?
Okay. So I always, we always tell people that if you have that learning, learning drive, and you want to, be part of something that, create that impact, then Supplycart's the place. We even tell them, say, if you're planning to take your master's or MBA, I think you can just forget it and just join Supplycart, because this is where you're going to learn so much, and Kelly, you also been involved with startups, and I'm sure the learning and the growth has been exponential. So coming to retention rate, right? We have people who have been with us for the past 4 to 5 years, and they've been around. But I would say the average, and I think this is common among the startup industry, correct me if I'm wrong as well. We see an average of about 2 years, and once they have been around, then, and we're happy for them, right? We don't want them to be forever in Supplycart. And if they leave Supplycart, they carry the Supplycart badge, we're really happy, right? So I think that is what we see the retention rate to be, about every 2 years. But me as a founder or as the CEO of the company, I do really mentor and sort of teach. And, if anything, the hardest workers, definitely, the founders themselves, we have to lead by example. So, we do really, work hard. But at the same time, we are also be able to empower our guys, trust our guys. I think that's what people are looking for as well. I'm not looking for a dictator, right? I'm not looking for a guy just to tell me everything. I want to be able to learn from somebody that gives me that opportunity, and I think that's what Supplycart has given a lot of people. Yeah.
So coming back to your headcounts, right? So you mentioned earlier that your tech expenses R&D has reduced. Is there any proprietary tech or patents? And are your tech team in-house or outsourced?
Yep. So it's proprietary. So we have built everything all from the ground up. So we own the code, and it's all in-house. So what I mean by that is, we don't need such a huge tech headcount anymore. It's purely because we have continuously built the platform to upgrade better. So the technology now, is more efficient, and we don't need, in a way, more people. So if you look at it, a lot of time companies, as they're growing, then they need more people. That kind of growth. But then for us, because we are growing, but then we have tapered down our sort of operational spend, headcount spend, and so forth. So I think that's where then I'm able to say that we'll be leading to the black, right, by Q1 in 2023. Yeah, so all in-house, Malaysian proud, no foreigners, right? And that's where I always tell investors, I think we really, if you believe that Malaysia, we believe that Malaysia, needs to be that sort of exposure, and being on the map, right? And I think, we aspire, and our founders have this vision that we really want to build a Malaysia proud tech team, and that's why we sort of, we always look at hiring local guys. How do we build local guys? And we structure the team in a way that a senior works with a junior then there's an intern as well. So that's how we structure it, in a way that they can learn. And then there's also, in a way, a proper handover. I mean, not handover, but, somebody to back up and stuff and learn from each other. Yeah.
So now that you've run this company for, I think, about 5 years, so how much of your consulting experience can you actually apply to running an actual startup?
Actually a lot. So I think is we cannot use that, that whole long consulting period and everything all to force it down businesses to say, okay, I came from consulting background, right? So you follow what I'm telling you. This is the implementation plan. It's going to take 1 year and so on, right? But what we have done is we have taken the experience to simplify it. How do we bring this then to simplify to shorter implementation cycle, faster? How do we educate? This is the best practices. So we have seen more than 800 companies in terms of their process. How do we then impart that quicker? We don't want to be that typical consultant. I'm going to charge you per hour, and take very long time and all this kind of stuff. So I think that's where we saw the difference. I think why we enjoy this more, than the typical consulting. At the end of the day, you're consulting, right? Can you really do it? So that was a challenge that all three of us like, okay, we're all consultants, right? So time to execute so that we know, we can walk the talk now and say we can execute this for businesses.
Yeah. I hear that a lot, especially from consultant background. They know what to do, but doing it is like, oh, it's a learning experience. Okay, we have one more question from the audience. So what is the one decision factor that would ensure the successfulness of your business venture?
What is the one decisive factor that will ensure the
successfulness of your business venture? You want to take some time to think back of all the factors
that will ensure the successfulness of your business venture. Okay, yeah, I think I've had the answer. I think is the answer would be, always constantly grow and innovate. I think the problem here is if we start going to comfort zone and we're happy where we are and say, what, we have done that, we are profitable already, all right, no. I think that would be the danger because technology is moving so fast right now. And I think we need to be very mindful that we need to constantly innovate. So having that startup mentality still needs to continue with us. All the way, even if a few years down the line we're 100 people, 200 people, we still need to have that kind of speed and mentality, right? I think similar to how Grab, also Anthony would say, we still have that startup mentality, we need to really grow quickly. So I think getting out of that comfort zone. So I think be very mindful, as founders and CEOs, not to to steer the company towards that and keep that culture going in this manner.
Yeah. So one of the audience asked, what is the target figure for this ECF round? So I can answer that. So the total target amount is 4 million, but the minimum funding target amount is 100K. So second part of this question, John, you can answer. Are you able to achieve it with 7 days to go?
So to be honest, we were looking to raise about 1 million-ish. We don't need to hit that 4 million mark, because again, we potentially had facilities for venture debt in a way. So I think that's something that is about to happen. So in a way, this equity crowdfunding round, we are raising anywhere between about 1 million-ish, and with the co-investment coming from the government, we could hit about 1.2, 1.5. So yeah, I think really for us it's the amount of people that's already on board, we're really excited to have them already. So I think, to be honest, it's really not taking so we're just taking enough what we need, right? And not just what. So yeah, I think for us, we're in an okay position. If it's just another 7 days, and if you guys need more time, I'll extend it. I'll talk to Kelly and Sam and pitch it and say, can I extend it to maybe end of the month for our other investors here tonight as well? So potentially, we able to extend it as well. So yeah, the option is open.
Yeah. So today, feel free to ask John any question that you have before you put in that investment. Any question that you want to ask, feel free to ask today. We have another 6 more minutes to go. So guys, keep your question coming. There is no question that's too hard for John. If he wants your money, he got to work for it. I can tell you're really tired, John.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Tired of my jokes. Okay. Okay, let me just ask you a few more questions. Oh, did I just? Oh, I think is John still there?
Yes,
yeah,
I'm
you
here,
just hit your video. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
No worries. No worries. Maybe you could share a little bit. I know this is a very hard question, but I know a lot of people didn't expect COVID to hit them, right? So once COVID hit you, what was the response that you had, and how did you try to reduce the loss?
For COVID, for us as a business.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. To be honest, we were not spared from COVID as well, right? And I think how we started, managing the business is we straightaway went to our clients first and said, hey guys, how are you guys doing? How is everybody? Are you guys going to be cutting, or are you guys not going to implement, and all this kind of stuff? So we went to that first as a strategy. And the next thing then is, we were not sure the timeline. So what's going to happen, right? So, we took advantage of the government, where we were able to, protect our guys, that, we didn't have to cut guys, and the salaries were all protected in that way. So I think these are some of the measures that we took during that COVID period, so we look at the suppliers and say, hey, how are you guys doing, right? And I think that is what we did. And then unfortunately, right, some businesses, definitely numbers were down, in terms of, that whole yo-yo up and down, up and down, up and down. So, I think for us, we were looking at stabilizing, basically, building that whole pipeline, right? And I think where we are looking forward to is when this blows over, everybody's going to be ready, and, everybody's going to be like rushing to do it. So we are really looking forward for that. So everybody here, do not be despair. I think things will be better and looking better soon. So I think that's what the overall sentiment I think businesses need to look forward to. And I think Supplycart, we are on that same sentiment. When our businesses able to then recover and restart and do all this again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's take one last question. This is from Kenny Wong from Facebook. How many percent of equity shareholding is a 1.5 million investment in Supplycart?
Sure. So I think currently, the equity that we were offering was, if we raised that 4 million, would be 12.5% of the company, right? I just wanted to add that the conditions of our investment into this round protects investors like yourself, because we have venture capitalists, and in a way, if you guys have a chance to look at the document in our pitching campaign page, it's a very well drafted document. Where the terms and conditions clearly stipulates, what type of shares you'll be getting, what kind of rights you have, what kind of clauses. So we were valued by the venture capitalists, and we have a basis of those valuations behind us. But yeah, so if you look at it, 4 million at 12.5%. So if it's about 1.5 to 2 million, then it's about 7% of the company. Yeah. We also would have something exciting in store for investors if potentially, we are able to allow some investors to increase their stake in our company, after we close the ECF round. If there is referrals, or the businesses, you're bringing business to the company, yeah, that is something that we want to reward our investors for as well. So that is something I'd like to share with you guys.
That is a perfect closing speech, John. Would you like to give another line or two to finish today's webinar?
Well, yeah, if you guys are business owners as well, and if you invest, we would give you the software for free for 1 year, right? So you get to use it as well for yourself if you're business owners. If you don't have, then you can just bless somebody with it, right? Your friend or family member that is having a business and we're happy. Again, this is a strategy for us to grow very quickly. So just want to tell you that we need to get a high return of investment for you guys. So yeah, maybe then my last final is what's the downside lah, right? And maybe if I portrayed it too well or saying that all the nice things, I think the downside here, guys, is really, definitely, we are driven, we are a technology company. Yes, we are loss making at this point in time. The question could be then, can we hit that profitability by 2023? And if it doesn't happen, then what happens after that, right? So, I think definitely I don't have that crystal ball, but what we are doing, and we are, in a way, being very safe lah. I mean, we have friends and family investing as well, right? In this round, believing in the business and so forth. So the pressure is really on, right? I got 3 kids. I need to, feed my 3 kids. I'm not saying I'm going to pay myself like very high, but definitely there's risk in this for sure. But it really just looking at our track record, where we're heading. We hope that investors will believe in where we're heading and share that same vision with us, going in this in the long run. Yeah, and I wanted to assure investors that we would definitely look at your exits. That, like I said, I'm serious. Where, of course, through pitchIN, you can do that secondary market sale, right? And you could then sell it.
Not yet.
Yes, not yet.
Not yet.
Yes, not yet. Soon, right? That will be one, right? So I think that is a good thing that's going to happen. But yeah, ultimately, then it's the other people acquiring your shares that in the future. Yeah. So yeah, be a shareholder today. Any questions? Hope just reach out to me anytime. I'm more than happy to just answer any of these questions.
All right. Thank you, John.
Thanks,
don't forget,
Candy.
his campaign is still live on pitchIN website. So if you like what you're hearing today, don't forget to make the investment. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. And everyone have a great night. Bye-bye.